What's gross? This one's gross. That's what's gross. Ew. What do you mean ew?
Sticker. It's gave you.
I made it to a heart.
Yep.
You pretty much
wiggle
have
your
to
fingers.
get,
Yeah, like this. Look it.
you have to get pretty far up in there.
Just go like.
Hello friends, hi, welcome back. If you are new here, hi, I'm Darian. I am a wife and a mother, a business owner, and we have a small 1 acre homestead here in southern Ontario. If you are seasoned, hi, welcome back. Today's Farmstead Financial Friday is a good one. I know I say that every time, but this one is a good one. We get questions all the time asking if milk goats are worth it, if having goats on our homestead is actually worth the cost it is to raise them and have them. Does the cost outweigh, you know, the benefits? And we did the math. 4 pages math. My husband and I track all of our expenses on our homestead because we like to be realistic. We want to know if things are actually worth it for us to do, or if it's better for us to purchase it from a local farm around us, you know, all that kind of stuff, because some things just aren't worth it for us. We like the skill set of knowing how to do everything, but sometimes it's financially just not worth it in this season of our lives. So after much request, I tallied up what it costs us to get our goats started up, like our initial startup costs, how much it costs us monthly to care for our goats, and then how much milk we get and how much dollar-wise that equals out for us. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Okay, so first, let's preface and explain what we have on our homestead for goats. Currently at this time, we have 5 Nigerian dwarf goats. So there's 5 right now. We have Fern, our main milker right now. Her milk production is not very high. There's several reasons as to why, but her milk production unfortunately is not as high as we would like it to be. But she's currently the only one in milk. So we have her 2 babies that she gave birth to back in March. We are keeping those 2. There was 1 male and 1 female, Biscuit and Bessie, and we're keeping both of them. We're keeping both of them on our homestead, so that's why we'll end up with we have 5 goats. We're actually going to ban Biscuit because we don't want any more males on our property, and Bessie will be a future milking goat later on down the road. So Fern is our main milker, and then we have Poppy and Daisy, twin sisters, and they are both pregnant as well right now. So they hopefully will give birth, and they will be hopefully good milkers as well. All of our goats are Nigerian dwarf goats. We did a lot of research and we found that that's what would work best for us. Based off of Fern's milk, we're kind of thinking we might have made a wrong decision, but we'll see how Poppy and Daisy are and how much milk they provide to see if it's worth it to keep the Nigerian dwarf goats or if we should switch to a Nubian goat. So we'll cross the line when it comes. But anyway, we do not have a male goat on our farm right now, but I did include the cost of him into our notes because we did purchase him before we sold him. So we did pay for him when we had him at our old farm, and when he serviced the ladies for us. So I did include that in my numbers, but going forward, we know a few different farms around us that will rent out their buck for the same cost of what we paid for him. So it's very reasonable considering. So let's start with the setup. So our goats have a shelter that we actually added on a smaller shelter to. So there's the big shelter that they can all go in, and then we made just a small little one, so we're calling it the maternity ward, so that when they give birth they have their own private section. And you know, unfortunately we don't have a big barn, so we have just, you know, shelter situation. But to build the goat shelter altogether was $300 to build. We did build it ourselves. We're not carpenters, we're homesteaders, but it works great. It looks, you know, it looks pretty good actually, and it works perfect for keeping the goats out of the bad weather and keeping them safe, protected, dry, which is all we really need, right? Now, I included fencing costs on our startup list, but I want to say it was about $1,000 to do our fencing, but our goats share a pen with other animals. So I included it, so we spent about $1,000 for the whole fence setup, but For my totals, I only included about half of that, so $500 towards my initial setup cost for the goats. Just because they do share a pen with chickens, turkeys, and ducks. So there's lots of other animals that we needed a pen for anyway with fencing, so it wasn't fair to put all that cost directly onto the goats per se. So like I mentioned, we have 3 Nigerian dwarf mamas. 2 are still pregnant. Fern already gave birth. So each of those goats we paid $400 a piece for. So that's $1,200 that we have invested in our 3 main goats. Our male goat, when we had him, we paid $100 for him. That's really a steal, but we knew somebody who was moving and didn't want him anymore, and so it worked out great for us. He was a big, beautiful goat. Unfortunately, when we moved homesteads from our old one to this new one, we did sell him because he was a male goat, so he was very destructive and, you know, caused a lot of problems for us. So we did rehome him, you know, but still want to count that in our cost because he did service our ladies. Also for the startup cost, we had ordered a stainless steel 2-quart bucket. I'm still waiting for it to come in. So that was $31.63. In the meantime, I did pick up these Cambro little 1 quart, 1 liter pails. They have lids, they have little lids. But I picked these up. On Amazon, these are $30, but I actually found them at my local Amazon return store, brand new, still in the package, for $6 for the set of 3. So this is currently what we use until the stainless steel one comes in, but these work really well too. So if you're trying to do budget conscious, this is a good option to have in my opinion, and they fit nicely in your fridge and stuff like that too, so good option. So that was initially all of our startup costs. So our entire startup cost to have our dairy goats was, hang on, $2,137.63. That is a lot for startup for goats. You could do it, you know what, I don't even want to pretend. I don't think you could do it much cheaper, to be honest. We were very fortunate that we got some of our supplies for free. We got discounts. So I'm not too confident that you could get it super more cheaper unless you knew somebody who had, like, we did have to pay for the fencing out of pocket. So unless you knew somebody that had extra fencing. But that's also where a lot of the money comes from, is the fence is really expensive. You do want to invest in a good fence. We did have a really cheap, inexpensive fence before, and the goats just destroyed it. So I do recommend you get fencing that is specifically made for goats. You won't regret it. Trust me, I know the cost is scary, but you won't regret it. So that is our initial startup cost for our goats. Now, before we get into the cost of milk, let's get into the cost of what it costs us to take care of our goats every month, because there is monthly fees, right? In our monthly costs for our goats, we have, it's called Tank Topper, and so it's like a pelleted feed that has all the nutritional benefits that they need. We spend about $30 a month on that. We spend about $12 a month on hay, and we spend about $10 a month on straw. So we're very fortunate that straw and hay both, we know somebody who grows it. The straw we get really inexpensive under the condition that we go pick it up in the field, which it does not take us very long to go load it up. So that's what we spend a month on that. So our monthly cost to take care of our goats is $52, which is not, you know, anything crazy. Like I said, we currently have 5 goats, and the cost to feed them includes those 2 baby ones. I know they're going to start eating a little bit more, don't get me wrong. But one thing I will add to that is we participate in a program called Loop Resource, and we're partnered with a local grocery store and our No Frills. And what that is that every Monday we go in, and whatever No Frills is going to throw out into the trash, we collect. So we have all the food, scraps, whatever, apples have bruises, everything like that. We bring home and we feed that to our animals. And it has caught, oh my God. it has cut down our feed costs drastically because goats do eat a lot. And you know, it's a lot. We get a lot of lettuces, a lot of cabbage, kale, apples. We get a lot of good things that the goats just love. So it really helps. I'll put a link down below for the Loop website. You can always check it out and see if there's one available with an open slot near you. It's an amazing program. I highly recommend it if you have farm animals. Like I said, we're just a small 1 acre homestead and we love it. It's perfect. It's amazing. Totally worth looking into if you want. So then the next monthly cost that we have for milking our goats, which is a whole other cost, not a whole lot though, don't worry. Well, I guess okay, so our monthly cost for milking our goats is $9.90 a month. And what that fee includes is breast milk bags. Because raw goat's milk does not last too long in the fridge, only a couple days. Right now, like I said, we only have 1 goat in milk, Fern, and she is not a high producer. So it takes me 3 days worth of milk to get enough to make a cheese. So we were highly recommended to breast milk bags from other homesteaders so that we can freeze her milk, and then once we have enough to do some batches of cheese, I can pull it directly out of the freezer and I have my raw goat's milk ready at any time. The other benefit to the breast milk bags is, for a good example, is when Fern had her babies, she would not feed them. And so we had to buy goat formula, which was really, really expensive. And a lot of homesteaders we spoke to said that they like when they freeze their goat's milk for their own use, but then it's great because if a goat has a baby and can't produce milk or isn't feeding or whatever reason, you have goat's milk in your freezer that you can feed to the baby goats. So it's a really good thing to do and a really cost-efficient thing to take advantage of. So these bags were about $16 for the case. There's 50 in there, so when I did the math, it came to, I don't know, between that and these filters, like 33 cents a day. So these filters are the next ones we're going to talk about, because they cost down, but they're like 15 bucks, I think. And so what these are these are milk filters, specifically for after I milk Fern and I bring the milk in the house, I run it through this filter. Just quickly take one out to show you. It's just like a filter. I run the milk through there and it gets out any impurities. So with her, I've noticed mostly it gets out like little hairs that are stuck on her udders. So definitely worth it. You don't want goat hair in your cheese. So these are, like I said, I think they're like $14.99 a month. It's a box of 100, so you do get a fair amount, don't get me wrong. Highly recommend them, obviously. We purchased ours at Berry Hill. I'm sure you can get them other places as well. That's just what was recommended to me. Some people have recommended to use coffee filters. I guess if you've been milking for a while and you're more comfortable with being able to tell by looking at the milk, coffee filter would be a good idea. I'm still a little bit nervous to try it, to be honest, so I'm going to stick with what was made for goats. But in a pinch, we have used a coffee filter in a pinch. So, I mean, it does work if you want to go on a little bit of a cheaper end, right? So, those two products alone, like I said, cost $9.90 a month for us. And that is how we are able to keep milking our goats. Okay, so just to recap real quick. Our initial startup cost is $2,137.63 to get going with all of our dairy goats. Our monthly cost to take care of the goats is $52 a month. Our milking cost is $9.90 a month for our milking supplies. Which is totaling, that one's is $61.90 a month for our goats. Now we're going to get into the price of what goat's milk is in my area. So if we were to purchase it off of our homestead, if we were to go purchase goat's milk, I did some research to find out what the cost would be. And we're still ahead of the game, in case you're wondering. So let's break it down first as to how much milk we get a month. So like I said, right now we only have one doe that is in milk. That is Fern, and she does not give us very much milk. She gives us approximately 10 liters of milk a month. So all of my numbers for the milk and the cheese and everything are based off of just Fern milking. That's not our other 2 goats that are due soon. This is just off of 1 milking goat at the moment. So we get approximately 10 liters of goat's milk a month. So if we were to go and buy raw, like fresh raw goat's milk in our area, it is illegal. But if you know somebody and you go to buy it, it sells right now for $12 a liter here in Southern Ontario. That's a lot. So when you do the math, that's $120 a month worth of raw goat's milk that we get from Fern alone. Now, I broke down that cost a little bit more, just a little bit, because we specifically got our dairy goats, because we like goat's cheese. That was honestly the main reason, was because of cheese. We really enjoy goat's cheese in our house. Goat's cheese is really expensive. It is high end. You know, you don't get as much milk from a goat as you would a cow, so it takes more to make the cheese. So like, I understand why it's more money in the store, but it's still more money. As a family of 5 who we all really like goat's cheese, this kind of made sense for us to do. So 1 liter of the goat's milk makes approximately 150 grams worth of cheese. So that size goat cheese in my area, it's just a little thing, right now sells for about $8 for that small piece. 10 liters is approximately 1,500 grams. It's technically a little bit, anyway, approximately is what we're gonna use. So 1,500 grams of goat cheese for us to go and purchase would be $80. If we went to go buy 10 liters of raw milk, that would be $120. So we're ranging anywhere from $80 to $120 worth of goat's milk products from Fern alone. Now, we have been making cheese with her milk and it has been turning out great. So then we decided to do the cost breakdown. So let's say $120 worth of goat's milk, we were to go buy raw goat's milk, $120 a month, subtract our monthly cost of $61.90 to be able to like take care of the goats and milk them. That's $58.10 a month that we would be saving. So we're still ahead of the game, friends. We're still ahead of the game. And then the other benefit to it, not just are we still ahead of the game per se, but we also have our own dairy supply. So if something happens and we are unable to purchase milk, you know, we buy our milk, our cow's milk, fresh from a dairy farm. It has a low pasteurization, but if we for some reason could not purchase any more cow's milk from anywhere, or you know, there's a problem in the system, we know that we have goats that we can collect milk from. It is not our favorite to drink raw goat's milk personally. Nobody in my house is really a big fan of it, but we have used it for baking, which nobody notices a difference. I've used it in scrambled eggs. You don't notice a difference. We are not at the point of making butter with it yet because we don't have enough of it. They do have a high, you know, cream rate in it, which is great, but unfortunately I just don't have enough where it's worth it for me to separate it and use it for butter yet. Hopefully when all 3 goats are in milk I can, but it will be nice to have our own goat's milk in the freezer at all times in case of an emergency, essentially. It's fantastic to have. It's not gonna, you know, go bad per se, like it will and it won't, but you know, I digress. In case you were wondering as well, I did break down, because we do numbers, I did break down how much like our initial cost was and how long until we seen a return on our investment. So it would take us 17.8 months, so a year and a half to see a full-blown profit. Now, for record, we've had our goats for 2 years, something like that. We've had them for quite a while, so we have seen our return on investment already, which has been fantastic. We've gotten past that phase of trying to make sure we recoup our costs. Okay friends, my battery died, and just as I was saying like my last little bit that I wanted to say, and then when the battery charged, it got really windy out and you could not hear me on the camera at all. Like the wind was that bad all of a sudden. So anyway, I hope that you liked that little bit of glimpse as to what it costs us to raise goats here in Southern Ontario for dairy. If you're looking into your livestock and it's intimidating when you add more livestock like that. Chickens are pretty, you know, self-explanatory to take care of, same with ducks and turkeys. But when you get into larger livestock, like I know a goat isn't really like large livestock, but it is bigger. It's a little bit intimidating, but you know, it's intimidating, but it's worth it. It's so worth it once you get over the hurdle. So I hope that was helpful for you to get like a general idea as to what it is. We definitely think that it's worth it to keep going with them. So our goats are not going anywhere anytime soon. And our other 2 goats are actually expecting. So we'll have more baby goats here in a little while. But we're not going to keep any more baby goats. So we're not doing that. And like I said earlier, we had a male goat, but we rehomed him when we moved. And our plan to breed our goats going forward is there's a couple local homesteads that actually rent out their bucks. So we'll just rent a buck because we just don't really want another one on our property. It's just not something we're into. Male goats can be very destructive sometimes. All the time. They're beautiful, don't get me wrong, but they are a handful. And that's just not something that we are in the phase of life to handle right now. So we'll just rent out a buck when we need it, not a problem. But we're gonna go ahead and keep breeding these ones any chance that we can, essentially. So we'll probably breed Fern again in the fall time so that she'll have a spring delivery. And yeah, I'm so excited, and I think that's all I have to say, friends. So if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a like. If you like our content, or you're just nosy and you want to see what we spend our money on our homestead, or what the cost of things are like here in Southern Ontario, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, friends. And until next time, bye.